So I want you to think of like the most agonizing, high-stakes waiting period of your entire life.
Oh, man. Yeah, that feeling.
Right. Like imagine you've just handed in this massive final exam that basically dictates the next 10 years of your career. The pencils are down, the work is totally done, but the grade doesn't arrive for weeks.
You're just stuck.
Exactly. You are utterly powerless to change the outcome, yet you're entirely consumed by what it might be. And that is the exact psychological space we are stepping into right now. Because today is May 2nd, 2026.
And in exactly 2 days, on May 4th, the votes for the Tamil Nadu Assembly elections will finally be counted.
Yeah, the waiting is almost over.
Right. The machinery of the campaign has ground to a halt, but the machinery of government hasn't really started up yet. It's this precarious suspension in midair.
It really is. And, before we jump into the inner workings of this specific moment, we should probably establish our parameters for this deep dive.
Oh, absolutely. That's crucial.
Because we are examining some highly charged, real-time political maneuvers involving the major players in Tamil Nadu, we're talking about the newly formed TVK, the incumbent DMK-led Secular Progressive Alliance, and of course, the legacy powerhouse, the AIADMK.
And we really want to be unequivocally clear to you, the listener, that we are taking absolutely no sides here.
None at all.
Right. Our goal is not to, endorse any candidate or ideology. We are here strictly to impartially analyze the tactical chessboard and the public postures of these parties, exactly as our source reports detail them.
Yeah, we are basically just looking at the mechanics of the game, and to understand the stakes of this specific waiting period, we have to recognize that the election doesn't just, end when the polls close.
No, not even close.
Right, because our sources detail a major strategy meeting held just this past Thursday by TVK President C. Joseph Vijay, and this wasn't some public rally.
Right, this was behind closed doors.
Yeah, exactly. A closed-door session at the party headquarters in Panayur, which is on the outskirts of Chennai, and it lasted well over an hour.
Which is significant.
It is. The attendees were the absolute administrative heavyweights. We're talking Party General Secretary N. Anand, Chief Coordinator of the High-Level Committee K. Singasian, and the General Secretary of Election Campaign Management Adhav Arjuna.
Plus, they brought in key office bearers and the actual candidates themselves.
Right. So, okay, let's unpack this. The voters have voted. The ballot boxes are sealed under armed guard. Why on earth do you hold an intensive, hour-long briefing with your candidates when they can no longer influence a single voter?
It seems counterintuitive, right?
It does. It's like a sports team having a tactical briefing after the game is already over.
Yeah.
And they're just talking about how to monitor the scoreboard and the referees.
That's actually a great analogy. Because if we connect this to the bigger picture, elections are not just won by convincing people to vote for you. They're won by ensuring the procedural integrity of counting day is flawlessly maintained.
So it's about making sure the math is real.
Exactly. The sources specify Vijay was laying down the exact procedures candidates and their agents needed to follow during that May 4th count. He was holding these training sessions in batches.
Wait, what does a counting agent actually do, though? Don't they just, stand behind a barrier and watch government officials tally the numbers?
Oh, no. It's way more intense than that.
Yeah.
The role of a counting agent in the Indian electoral system is highly technical and, honestly, legally combative.
Combative?
Yeah, absolutely. You're dealing with thousands of electronic voting machines, or EVMs, spread across multiple tables in this massive, chaotic hall. An agent doesn't just watch. First, they have to verify the physical integrity of the machine before a single vote is even revealed.
Like checking for tampering.
Right. They're checking the specific serial number on the pink paper seal of the control unit to ensure it perfectly matches the alphanumeric code on their Form 17C, which is the document given to them on polling day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and if a seal looks tampered with, or even if a serial number is off by a single digit, the agent has to immediately object.
So they're essentially forensic auditors working in real time under extreme stress.
Precisely. And they really need to understand the legal grounds for challenging a count, because the ultimate authority in that room is the returning officer.
And who is that usually?
The returning officer is typically a high-ranking civil servant, often an IAS officer, and they possess near absolute authority over the counting hall.
So you can't just mess around with them.
No, exactly. If an untrained political agent starts yelling about a discrepancy without citing the proper electoral rule, the returning officer will just have them ejected by security for disrupting the process.
Wow, so an untrained agent is basically a massive liability.
A catastrophic liability, yeah. This meeting in Panayur was essentially a specialized legal defense seminar. If you lack trained personnel on May 4th, you can theoretically lose a marginal election purely on a technicality, even if the votes were actually cast in your favor.
That is wild. And, the reason Vijay had to conduct this highly technical training in batches isn't just because counting halls are crowded. It's a direct result of the sheer geographical sprawl of their campaign.
The scale is massive.
It really is. The sources note that the TVK contested a staggering 233 seats across the state. So they aren't just staffing one hall, right? They're trying to deploy these forensic auditors across 233 distinct constituencies.
And when you look at a footprint that wide, particularly for a newer political entrant like the TVK, which is, aiming to disrupt the established bipolar dynamic of Tamil Nadu politics, the logistical machinery required is just immense.
It's a massive undertaking.
It is. You are basically managing 233 micro-campaigns, and each one requires its own legal teams, its own ground coordinators, and its own counting agents.
But out of all those seats, the report highlights one glaring exception, which is the Idapati constituency. The TVK didn't actually field a candidate there.
Right, but not by choice.
Exactly. It was because their candidate's nomination was rejected by the Election Commission. So instead of abandoning the constituency, the TVK pivoted, and they threw their support behind an independent candidate.
Which is a fascinating move.
Yeah, so walk me through the mechanics of that. Like, how does a party legally and logistically endorse an independent at the last minute?
Well, a rejected nomination usually stems from a procedural error. A mismatched signature, a discrepancy in the sworn affidavit, maybe missing documentation.
Oh, so just a paperwork issue can tank it.
Yeah, exactly. And when a party's candidate is disqualified, their official electoral symbol is completely removed from that specific ballot.
And that's a big deal, right?
It's devastating.
Yeah.
In a state where a significant portion of the electorate votes by recognizing party symbols rather than reading names, losing your symbol is a huge blow.
Because the voters walk into the booth looking for the TVK symbol, and it's simply not there.
Exactly. So the pivot requires a massive, immediate recalibration of their whole ground game. By endorsing an independent candidate, the party has to instruct its entire local cadre to distribute new handbills.
Just to say, hey, vote for this other thing now.
Right. They have to educate their voters to look for whatever free symbol that independent was assigned. It could be like a ring, or a pressure cooker, or a lock and key.
That sounds incredibly difficult to pull off.
It's a real-time stress test of a party's communication network. They're ensuring their supporters in Adopati still have a designated outlet to register their political preference, rather than just letting those votes scatter to rival parties.
So they're patching the leak to maintain a presence in almost every single seat across the state.
Exactly.
And the sources also point out another really fascinating structural strategy here. Joseph Vijay himself didn't just contest one seat. He contested two completely separate constituencies, Parambar and Tiruchi East.
Yeah, the dual seat strategy. It's a highly demanding maneuver.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because mathematically, if a leader stretches their personal time and their funding and their energy across two distinct campaigns, doesn't that inherently increase their vulnerability?
Well, you would think so, yeah.
Right. Like if Vijay loses one of those seats, doesn't the public humiliation of that loss completely erase the regional gains he made by running there in the first place? Why not just secure one incredibly safe seat?
It is a high-risk proposition, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But it's driven by the need for statewide narrative dominance. Let's look at the geography of it.
Okay, lay it out.
So, Parambar is situated in northern Chennai. It represents the dense, urban, working class, and middle class demographics of the state capital.
Makes sense.
But Tiruchi East, on the other hand, anchors you in the central region of Tamil Nadu. It acts as a gateway to the crucial agrarian and delta districts.
Oh, I see. So by running in both, he's physically bridging the urban-rural divide.
Exactly. He is embedding his personal brand into two fundamentally different socioeconomic zones. He's basically telling the electorate, I am not just a regional faction leader. My appeal and my party's relevance span the entire diverse demographic makeup of Tamil Nadu.
That's a bold message to send.
It is. And furthermore, the dual-seat approach acts as a structural insurance policy against hyper-localized wave elections.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if a sudden unforeseen local issue tanks a leader's chances in their primary constituency, the second seat ensures the party president still secures a place in the Legislative Assembly.
Ah, so it's a backup plan, too.
Right. The humiliation of losing one seat is politically survivable. But a party president failing to enter the assembly at all, That is a decapitation strike to a new party's momentum.
Okay, that makes total sense. So staffing 233 counting centers with highly trained legal watchdogs, running a dual-seat campaign across different geographic zones, and pivoting ground operations for an independent. This is an incredibly expensive, grueling logistical operation.
It takes a toll on everyone involved.
It has to. And the willingness of all those volunteers and agents to show up on May 4th and fight for every single marginal ballot, well, that directly depends on whether they believe they actually have a chance to win.
Which brings us to the exit polls.
Exactly. Because the exit polls were released the day before the TVK strategy meeting, covering 4 states, including Tamil Nadu. And the resulting data has triggered wildly divergent reactions from the opposition leaders.
Very divergent. Yeah.
According to the reports, the majority of pollsters are predicting a win for the DMK-led Secular Progressive Alliance. The incumbent government is basically favored to retain power.
Right. That's what the data is showing.
But what is fascinating is how TVK President Joseph Vijay reacted to this. Our source notes that Vijay himself publicly predicted a majority for the DMK-led alliance, even while acknowledging that a few outlier pollsters gave a lead to the TVK.
Yeah, he's just looking at the board and openly accepting the likelihood of a DMK victory.
Which is wild. For a party leader to publicly validate a poll predicting their own defeat just days before the official count, that is a highly unusual posture.
It is very rare.
Yeah.
But it speaks directly to the TVK's specific strategic timeline as a newer political entity.
It really reminds me of the financial markets. Like, when a company knows a bad earnings report is coming, the CEO doesn't deny it, right? They price it in early.
They manage the expectations.
Exactly. They manage the expectations of their investors so that when the bad news officially drops, the market doesn't panic and sell off the stock. Vijay is pricing in the DMK win so his political investors, his cadre, and his counting agents don't suffer a devastating psychological crash on Monday morning.
That is the exact mechanism at play here. If you're building a long-term political force, credibility is your primary currency.
You can't lie to your own people.
Right. By embracing grounded realism, Vijay protects his long-term authority. He's essentially telling his cadre, the macro-political wind is against us in this cycle, but our focus right now is on the micro-level procedural fight.
He's shifting the goalposts for them.
Exactly. He is decoupling their motivation from the final outcome, shifting the focus entirely to the integrity of the process itself.
But then you have the AIADMK. Let's look at how AIADMK General Secretary Edappadi K. Palaniswamy, widely known as EPS, responded to the exact same set of exit polls predicting a DMK win.
A very different approach.
Night and day. The reports state EPS outright rejected them. He released a statement expressing hope that the AIADMK will win in 210 constituencies.
Just to contextualize that number for a second, there are 234 total seats in the Tamil Nadu Assembly.
So 210 is?
Predicting 210 seats is predicting an absolute historic landslide sweep for the AIADMK.
And his language was incredibly aggressive, too. We have his exact quote from his Thursday statement. EPS said, "Our party's uniqueness lies in the fact that it has always demolished the exit polls. It will do so in this election, too."
He's framing the data not as a reflection of reality, but as an adversary to be conquered.
So what does this all mean? How on earth do we reconcile this? We have 2 opposition leaders. One is looking at the polls and calmly pricing in a loss.
Right.
And the other is looking at the exact same data and acting like a CEO, aggressively pumping a stock, promising historic, record-breaking dividends to prevent a bank run before the market even opens.
It's fascinating.
Like, why would EPS risk his credibility by predicting 210 seats when the data points in the exact opposite direction? It's like looking at the same weather forecast, and one person buys an umbrella while the other insists the meteorologist is lying and plans a beach day.
What's fascinating here is that this is where we reach the core tactical reality of counting hall psychology.
Okay, tell me more about that.
To understand EPS's statement, you really have to understand the historical weight of the AIADMK. This is a massive, deeply entrenched legacy party. They have ruled the state for decades across various cycles.
They carry a lot of history.
A ton of history. And for a leader of a legacy party, showing any public vulnerability or bowing to external data is interpreted by the base as pure weakness.
They can't afford to look weak.
No, they can't. But more importantly, his statement isn't actually directed at the media or the pollsters. It's directed exclusively at his counting agents.
His troops on the ground.
Yes. Think about the counting hall environment we just described earlier. It is hostile, exhausting, and legally combative.
Right, the forensic auditors fighting for every vote.
Exactly. If an AI ADMK agent walks into that counting center at 8 a.m. on Monday, believing the exit polls, believing that their party's already lost the state, their motivation to fight a hostile returning officer over a single disputed EVM seal just plummets.
Why risk ejection or a screaming match if the war is already over?
Exactly. If the agents think they've lost, they psychologically abandon the tables.
Wow. And if your agents abandon the tables, the opposing party's agents suddenly have free rein to claim every single marginal or disputed ballot without pushback.
That's the danger. EPS is acutely aware that conceding the narrative today means literally conceding the physical counting tables on Monday.
So it's a defensive strategy.
Yes. When he says the party has always demolished the exit polls, he is manufacturing a reality distortion field. He's providing psychological armor to his cadre.
He has to give them a reason to fight.
Right. He is giving them a reason to walk into the counting hall and fight tooth and nail, convinced they're on the verge of a historic 210-seat sweep. Denying the polls isn't mere arrogance. It's an absolute tactical necessity to keep his defense matrix completely intact.
That fundamentally changes how we view political rhetoric during this waiting period. It isn't just PR, It is operational command.
Absolutely.
Vijay has the luxury of playing the long game, using grounded realism because his party is new and building baseline credibility. But EPS is burdened by the legacy of an empire, requiring him to project invincible strength to prevent his defensive line from collapsing before the battle even begins.
It reveals the profound difference between building a political machine and maintaining one. The votes are physically locked in steel boxes, completely unchangeable, yet the reality of how those boxes will be opened is entirely dependent on the psychological state of the people watching them.
And I think that brings this deep dive directly back to you, the listener, because while you might not be deploying thousands of agents across Tamil Nadu this weekend, you absolutely understand the anatomy of a high-stakes waiting period.
Everyone's been there.
Yeah. When the die is cast, but the result is hidden from you, do you adopt the VJ strategy? Do you retreat into the administrative details, calmly pricing in the worst-case scenario and focusing solely on the methodical next steps so you aren't caught off guard?
Or do you take the EPS road?
Exactly. Do you manufacture your own psychological armor, boldly rejecting outside probabilities, and projecting an aura of ultimate confidence to keep yourself moving forward? How you choose to wait often reveals the very architecture of how you cope with uncertainty.
The strategies we deploy in the dark are often way more complex than the actions we take in the light.
They truly are. So as we wrap up today, with the calendar locked on May 2nd and the looming reality of May 4th just 48 hours away, I want to leave you with a final lingering question to turn over in your mind.
What's that?
We explored how EPS leverages the claim that his party historically demolishes exit polls to literally alter the behavior of his agents in the counting room.
Right.
If that aggressive psychological posture actually works on Monday, if the loudest, most defiant counter-narrative manages to squeeze out marginal victories and outperform the data-driven pollsters, what does that mean for the future of political strategy?
That's a scary thought.
It is. If the sheer willpower of a mobilized base can physically shift the reality on the ground, do predictive data models even matter anymore? Or will the art of the bold, reality-distorting claim permanently replace the science of the survey? The answers are locked inside those EVMs. Keep your eyes on the scoreboard.